using probiotics. So I will be reviewing a research paper, and so this is a paper that is studying a lot of studies. So we are going to look at what are the benefits of taking a probiotic if we have chronic disease, and in particular, if we have multiple sclerosis. If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I was clinically diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 34 years ago. And so I've had this incredible journey where, by the grace of God, I learned very early on that the MS was caused by parasites in the body. And that was 34 years ago. There wasn't a lot of research on this topic back then. But over the years, I got a science degree and learned a lot more about the different types of parasites that are involved with multiple sclerosis and other chronic diseases. And so we've created this system where we've helped hundreds of people all over the world to recover from MS and other chronic diseases. So I've been able to live MS-free for 34 years. And this whole topic about probiotic therapy for multiple sclerosis is really important because a lot of us are buying probiotics, and it's important that we can have a sense of what they could actually help us with and what they actually can't do. So the study, I will give you the title of the study. So I'll share that in a minute. I just wanted to review a couple of things that are really important first. If you follow my work, you know that I talk a lot about dysbiosis, because what we have learned is that when we're dealing with chronic disease, but even things like just fatigue, and sometimes we think it's hormonal problems or imbalances in hormones or allergies and all of these different things, we don't realize that they are all really connected to parasites in the body. And so what we've learned and what the research is really showing now with multiple sclerosis is that when we have MS or any other chronic disease, we're in a state of dysbiosis, meaning we're really out of balance. We have too many disease-causing parasites and not enough health-promoting microbes, the good guys. And so I've been talking about dysbiosis for over 10 years, and it's really starting to get a lot of traction in the scientific community. Also, I've done videos talking about the gut-brain axis, and the gut-brain axis it's really this two-way communication between our intestines, our gut, and our brain. So we know that there's this highway of many, many different types of nerves that are going from our central nervous system into our gut. And so there is this two-way communication where the brain affects the gut and the gut really affects the brain also. And this is really implicated with multiple sclerosis too. So the reason I do these videos is to really help you to see that there is a better way to treat MS. There's a way to treat the cause, and the cause is parasites. And so we're going to talk more about how probiotic therapy could potentially be helpful when we're in a state of dysbiosis or we're dealing with MS or any other chronic disease or condition. So with this two-way highway, or I should say communication system between our gut and our brain, when we have multiple sclerosis, that really becomes compromised. And so there is a lot of evidence, scientific evidence in this field. And I've done a talk on this before. You can go to our YouTube channel, Live Disease Free, you'll see it there. We are just in the process of updating our website, and we'll have lots of videos up there, or we're moving on to Rumble now too. But the one about the blood, not the blood-brain barrier, but that the gut-brain axis, you'll find that video on YouTube, Live Disease Free. So again, there's a huge amount of scientific relationship evidence showing that there's this big relationship between that gut-brain axis and things like our mental health, our mood regulation, but also our motor function, so our ability to move. And people that suffer with multiple sclerosis, and this is true for many other conditions, but I'm just talking about MS right now, they have changes in that gut-brain axis. And the scientific community believes that that's really a big part of the cause of what's causing MS. Because when you have a breakdown in communication between your nerves, that and your central nervous system, for example, and you're having different cognitive and mood issues and motor function being impaired in those areas, that's all part of MS. And multiple sclerosis patients, they are more likely to have different types of microbes that live in their digestive tract than healthy people. I've done lots of videos on that. We've talked about the dysbiosis. We've talked about certain bacteria that really become prevalent, and they produce really strong neurotoxins that can break down not just the leaky gut, but we have a breakdown of a blood-brain barrier. So I've talked about all of these things, and what's so fascinating is that the number of microorganisms, these little, it's not just bacteria, but different types of microorganisms that live in our body, especially in the intestinal tract, they're estimated to be 100 trillion, and they outnumber the cells in our body 10 to 1. So we're literally this shell carrying all these different microbes. And of course, the types of microbes that live inside of us really matters. That's what really causes us to either be healthy or sick. And so a probiotic, you probably are familiar with what probiotics are. And probiotics, oh, no sound. Okay, jeepers, that's awful. Okay, then I'm going to start over again. Let me just see why it's not working. No sound? Let me know if you can, okay. Let me know if the sound is working right now, please, because it should be. Let me just check here. It's low. That's weird. Okay, let me just check.
Because this is very important. Okay, one more place to check here. That's strange. Okay, it says that it's really high and it's plugged in. That is really odd. It's good now? Okay, who knows? I didn't do anything. It was still at the right audio level, but we'll take it. Okay. Let me just go back over, because if you couldn't hear anything, that's not going to help you. So again, the topic today is we are going to be reviewing, and it's a study where they look at a whole bunch of different studies, and they're really trying to figure out if probiotics help people that have multiple sclerosis. And so I'm going to review that, and they have found some help, right? And then I'm going to finish off by talking about different types of probiotics and ones that we've tried and what we really feel is the most helpful, and to just have a really clear understanding of why they would be helpful or why they would not be helpful. We can't expect they're going to cure us, but they do have some benefit. So again, dysbiosis means we're out of balance. We have too many disease-causing parasites and not enough health-promoting microbes. And we have this gut-brain axis that I've talked about before. So we have all these nerves in our central nervous system, our brain and our spinal cord, and then there's all of these nerves that move into or are connected to the gut, to our intestines. And so there's this highway between our central nervous system and our intestines, and that is the gut-brain axis. So our brain affects our gut, and our gut affects our brain in many, many different ways. And they really believe, and they've been looking at science, and they find that with multiple sclerosis, they really feel that there is a compromise in this gut-brain axis in MS patients. And that they believe that's probably one of the big reasons or causes for MS. And when there is when it's not working properly, that gut-brain axis, we can really be affected with respect to our mental health, so the cognitive, the memory, the brain fog, but also mood regulation and also motor function, so us being able to move our arms and our legs and our hands, etc. And people that suffer with multiple sclerosis, it's been scientifically shown that there are changes in the gut-brain axis. And again, they believe that that's really a cause of multiple sclerosis. And it also impacts how quickly the disease is going to progress and make us disabled. And research shows that if you take a supplement, if you have MS or other chronic disease, we're just talking about MS today, but it applies for all chronic diseases. But if you take a probiotic supplement, that it definitely does help. And again, I'm just giving you some background research. So we talked about dysbiosis, we talked about the gut-brain axis, and then I've also shared that in previous research studies, I've done live events on this where they have found that a lot of different studies have found that there's different types of microbes that live in the intestines of MS patients versus healthy people. So we know that we have different types of microbes. And then also, I find this just so fascinating, is that the number of microbes that live in our intestines, they could be about 100 trillion microbes, and they outnumber the cells in our body 10 to 1. So we're like a house for all of these different types of microbes. And so our health really is determined by which types of microbes live inside of us. And when I say microbe, this is not just bacteria, but it's different types of protists, which are single cell parasites. There's also different types of fungi, and there could be some fungi that are helpful, health promoting, that will keep other fungi under control, but then there's others that are very disease causing, and even worms. So there's all these different microbes that live in our digestive tract, and in order to stay healthy or to recover from chronic disease, we really have to understand the state of they call it a microbiota, the microbes that live inside of us, and we want to bring it back into balance if we have dysbiosis. And when we're sick, we definitely have dysbiosis. So this is not just with MS. What are some of the important jobs that these health-promoting microbes do? Well, they act as our natural defense. If we haven't gone on antibiotics and we got a lot of good health-promoting microbes from our parents, then we have this natural defense, and it really crowds out the bad. Also, the good health-promoting microbes, they help us to digest our food, they make vitamins for us, they help us absorb our nutrients. They also modulate our immune system. They also are involved with cell-to-cell communication. They actually affect brain development and brain function, and also including regulating nerve impulses. And some of these things I didn't know. Creation of new nerves and myelination. So it's crazy to understand that the microbes in our intestines, they really can impact our brain function, our brain development, and how our nerves are operating. And the nerve impulse, that's really how we function. It's how we see things. It's how we touch things, how we move, how we get information from our environment. And one other thing I wanted to mention too is that the central nervous system is not a sterile environment. There are microbes that live in the central nervous system. We used to think it was sterile, but it's not. So we have to consider that also. So this gut microflora has been referred to as a second brain because it has such a huge influence on our brain function. So again, because it is affecting brain function in a major, major way. And it's also really important in just our cognitive function and our mood, for example. So there have been many reports that probiotics can help our mental state, like as far as depression and anxiety, and our cognitive function. And there are health-promoting microbes in our digestive tract. We know that they can definitely help our mental health and neurological functions, and especially mood, anxiety, attention, memory, and cognitive function. And there's growing evidence that some of the toxins produced by different bacteria, they play a critical role in our mental health. So and it's not just bacteria. We know other parasites, they can produce different chemicals that really can make us feel depressed, can make us feel exhausted, can give us foggy head. Even things like alcohol, for example, some of the bacteria are and fungi are massive producers of alcohol. And so it's well known in science that the gut microbes, they play a significant impact on our nervous system in health and disease. And I think I shared that, the development of this central nervous system. So let's go on further here. And health promoting the microbes in the intestines, the health promoting ones, they really give us the strong foundation for health. understanding how the microbes that live in our body, how they affect us in health and disease, is the most heavily researched topic in science today. And it's really sad that our neurologists are not reviewing all of this information. So the health-promoting microbes in the gut can directly change the central nervous system biochemistry by affecting something called, and I'm just giving you a couple little things. So it's called BDNF, and that is something, it's a type of chemical that it's health promoting. And there's growing evidence about this, the two-way interactions between the immune system and the gut microbes. It's really crucial. So this is not just for just general health, but it's really crucial in how we deal with multiple sclerosis, how quickly we become disabled, and how severely the disease is affecting us. So these are hallmarks, like really common characteristics of multiple sclerosis. So I'm not going to talk about like the spasticity and the fatigue and the weakness and the paralysis. Those are all physical symptoms. But when we're looking at the microbiota, we're looking at inside the body, these are hallmarks that they're seeing in science. And it's just so frustrating that our neurologists are not up on this. But huge sign of MS is big changes in the microbes that live in the gut. Very different than healthy people. A gut dysbiosis, really being out of balance. Leaky gut, very characteristic of multiple sclerosis. Blood-brain barrier disruption. So we not just only have the leaky gut where things are moving from our intestines into our blood that should not, but we also have compromised blood-brain barrier. So things that are in our blood that should not move into our central nervous system are. And then, of course, demyelination. And then we have loss of certain cells that actually maintain the myelin sheath. And we have activation of immune cells in the central nervous system. So there are these immune cells that live in the central nervous system, and they call them like macrophages, and they go after infection, parasites. And then also there are these other cells in the central nervous system, and they're really involved in supporting the neurons, and they're very, very numerous. So those are all hallmark characteristics of people that have MS. So people that don't have MS do not have this huge proliferation of these cells that are involved in maintaining, because if you have an assault of parasites or it's always parasites, it's always infections with MS, as the research is showing us, or it could be the toxins too from some of these parasites. So if we're having damage to our nerves, then those cells are going to be activated. Definitely your immune system is activated. The cells that are maintaining our nerve cells are going to be activated. And of course, the cells that maintain the myelin, they will be activated. So all of those things are activated with multiple sclerosis. One thing that I don't think I've shared yet, which I found really interesting, is that our body uses oxygen to kill pathogens. And they're called reactive oxygen species. And we, as we're recovering from parasites, we find that using oxidative therapy is really helpful too. And I can't talk about certain ones, the ones that are most cost-effective and most helpful, but you'll find that on Rumble. And I think it's called something like treating parasites with oxygen therapies. So you can go there and you can find a type of oxygen therapy, again, under Live Disease Free, under Rumble, which is kind of like YouTube, but they don't censor things as much. And you can find that I'm posting videos there that, if there's certain sensitive things that I can't talk about that would be censored, you can go there and find it. Live Disease Free on Rumble. And that is oxygen therapies and treating parasites. There you will learn, like, we started using ozone and we really like ozone, but there's another oxidative therapy that is a lot more cost effective and a lot more helpful in helping us to treat parasites. But as I was mentioning, our immune system also uses these oxidative therapies. Oxidative just means oxygen type therapies, reactive oxygen species. And we call them ROS. So these are the ROS have been implicated in many aspects of the immune response to parasites, and they are found in increased concentrations in the cerebral spinal fluid of MS patients. So our body uses them to treat parasites, and when we have MS, we have a lot more of them in our spinal fluid. and interesting, right? I've shared so much evidence that MS is an infectious disease. That's just one more piece of the puzzle. So there is an impaired immune response in MS. And again, that is kind of theory. Is it that the parasites are too abundant, right? And sometimes the war gets out of hand, and sometimes the good guys need some help. And I believe that that is really more what it is. And so I'm going to just share what a few studies have found. So in this review, and I think I cut it and put it somewhere else. We will share the title of the review. Let me just see if I can find it here. I know where it would be, I think. No. Let's see. One last quick check. I just moved it, but we will post it. Here it is. So the title of the study, it's called Probiotics and Commensal Gut Bacteria. Probiotics and Commensal Gut Microbiota as an effective alternative therapy for multiple sclerosis patients' treatment. So that's a big mouthful, but we will post the link. So as soon as we're done here, we'll post the link to it so you can look at it. And then what I always do is at the end of every week, I create a blog post on our Live Disease Free website. And there you can actually find the recording of this. You will also see me, it's written out so that some people like to read the notes of this presentation and some people like to watch. And there will be the link there also. And if you haven't been to our blog on Live Disease Free, you should, because you will find so much valuable information in, number one, why we're sick, helping you to understand how we have to recover, what things we have to do. And so I bring up a lot of topics that should be discussed, that the doctor should be discussing. So hopefully you will get a chance to go over there. If you go to our website, Live Disease Free, and you opt in so that we have your name and email, we can be in touch with you. You'll know when we are also posting these live events, or even just subscribe on YouTube. And then you will also be able to get in the newsletter that we have every week. Our newsletter has a lot of really valuable information on it. Okay, so going back to this. Okay, so what I'm going to share is just like little simple statements about what a lot of these studies have found for people that have multiple sclerosis and they're taking a probiotic. Please keep in mind that I don't know if they've changed their diet at all, and I don't know if maybe, certain people that are more health conscious that have MS are taking probiotics. So I don't know. We don't have very much information about that. And then also, they've shared that the way that they're measuring the level of inflammation is not an exact science yet, but they do definitely see some benefits. So number one would be when they have, so this relates to a specific probiotic, and I'm not recommending any of these. I'm just telling you so that you kind of have an idea of, what kind of species that they found in the study were helpful, or maybe what kind of probiotics. So the first study was one for VSL3. So VSL3 is, I don't know if it's just VSL and then there's different numbers, but I know that there's different concentrations of this probiotic. And it's usually used for people that have inflammatory bowel disease. And it's fairly high doses of lactobacillus bacteria. And so when they gave MS patients, I guess I don't know which one they gave them, but basically there's like 120 some billion bacteria per dose, and then there's 450 billion, and then there's another one with 900 billion per dose of the bacteria. And what they found is that giving MS patients this probiotic, that it was associated with immune modulation. And again, I don't know how much immune modulation, but it definitely helped a bit. But when they stopped taking the supplement, it did not continue. And I've seen that with people that I know have inflammatory bowel disease that haven't worked with me, but just people that I know that are friends. Like one gentleman, I think it's colitis. And when he takes the VSL, it helps to manage some of his symptoms. But if he stops taking it, it really doesn't help anymore. Another study found that probiotics may improve disability and mental health symptoms by regulating an inflammatory response, so immune modulation, and enhancing serotonin levels in the brain. Again, I don't know how significant this is. I'm all about cures, I'm all about recovery, but if it helps a bit, it might be one piece of the puzzle, right? The use of probiotic capsules for 12 weeks. So these are all different studies. It's not all VSL. Each point I give you is from a different study using a different probiotic blend. So in this 12-week study with subjects that had MS, they had improvements in the EDSS. So that is like a survey. So there were several surveys. There was the GHQ-28 and the DASS and the BDI and the EDSS. So they noticed that with these surveys, and they're more like quality of life surveys, and also one was measuring depression, another one was general health, another one was depression and anxiety. So those are all different surveys, and they did find that there was improvements in these different assessment tools that people filled out after they were on probiotics for about 12 weeks. And then another study found that probiotic consumption showed a significant influence on sanity health. Another study showed that supplementation with probiotics reduced the fatigue severity scale and also the pain rating index. So it definitely helped reduce fatigue a bit and also helped with pain. But again, I don't know if it's just that you have to keep taking them ongoing. And the probiotic supplementation in another study also showed significant effect on the inflammatory and oxidative stress markers. So again, immune modulation. And then also other studies have shown that it really affects gene expression. And I've talked about that a lot, is that the microbes that live in our body, they really impact which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off. Another study also found that decreased serum insulin levels and decreased inflammatory markers. So we see a lot of, mild immune modulatory effects by taking probiotics. And so all in all, again, these probiotics may help to modulate the immune system, kind of decreasing that, really the severe fighting part of it. It's not treating the cause, but it might give us a little bit of improvements in how we feel, less mood swings, less fatigue. And I don't know, I didn't see exactly how measurable that is, but it's all good, right? It's definitely good. And so the types of microbes that are in a lot of these probiotic supplements, again, a lot of lactobacillus, which you've probably heard of, and bifidobacterium species, so Lactobacillus acidophilus, Lactobacillus casei, Bifidobacterium bifidum, and I think it's Lactobacillus fermentum. But there are lots of other different species. If you look at probiotics, you'll probably find anywhere between 5 to 10 or more strains, different types of bacteria in the supplement. So things that I've tried in the past, and I'm going to share my experience with probiotics. So I've been on this journey for a long time, and I have used many different probiotic supplements. A couple of words of wisdom that I could share with you is that when we have a lot of dysbiosis and we have a lot of parasites in our intestines, a lot of disease-causing worms and protists and bad bacteria, what we have found with our students is that they do a lot better when they are not having a probiotic that has prebiotics in it. So prebiotics are types of fiber that are added to the supplement, kind of like food for the health promoting microbes, for the good guys. We call them the good guys. So they package them in little capsules and they add a little food in there, and that's the prebiotic. But the problem is the prebiotic will also feed the parasites that you have in your intestines. So I would just make sure that if you're getting a supplement, a probiotic supplement, make sure that it does not contain prebiotics. Of course, it should be dairy-free and it should be yeast-free and sugar-free. All of those things are really, really important. The brands that I've tried, just a couple that I can remember, Dr. O'Hara and Garden of Life. I actually have it here. This is not a bad one. It's like soil microorganisms. Let's see here. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Don't know if it's fuzzy. If I hold it close to me, it won't be. So that one. And so the reason that one it's called Primal Defense, and it can be a little bit helpful because it's soil microorganisms. So you're getting, there are certain things like Saccharomyces boulardii, which is a type of yeast that will attack Candida and possibly other bad bacteria. Bacillus subtilis is a type of bacteria that will go after Candida. So there are these different spore-bearing microbes that can be helpful, like megaspores and other ones. So, you're more than welcome to try different ones. Just make sure they don't contain prebiotics or you might feel worse. There are many in the health food store. Back in the day when we started, they used to be around 10 billion bacteria per dose, per capsule. And now I see that they're a lot higher. They're at 50 billion, up to 100 billion or more, 250 billion, or even with VSL, they're up to like 900 billion per dose. And again, like it's what your goal is. If you're just wanting to possibly have a little bit of symptom improvement, then adding that in is fine. But remember that a lot of these probiotics, they're called transient strains. They're not human strains. So they're grown in labs, in laboratories. They've never been in a human digestive tract. And so they don't really like to inhabit. They don't stay there. So they might give us some symptom improvement as they're passing through, but they don't really have long-lasting benefits. What my favorite is now is the raw sauerkraut. And the best one is when you can make it yourself. Or if you have somebody locally that makes a wild ferment, it's called. So if you have organic vegetables and they're cut up, like the cabbage, for example, and it's shredded fairly fine, and you're fermenting it for, 10 days or more, and you have this beautiful raw sauerkraut. It's a living food. And when you don't add a culture to it, which is like, if you took a probiotic pill and you threw it in with the cabbage, then whatever was in the probiotic pill, it's going to take over. So then your sauerkraut will be mostly those microbes that were in your probiotic pill. But if you just allow the naturally occurring microbes that are living on organic vegetables to multiply and multiply, you get more diversity. And that we have found to be the most successful with our students. Of course, if we're really sick, we're not going to be able to make homemade sauerkraut. It's not hard, but we might need some help. Or you can buy raw sauerkraut in health food stores. But again, it will be more like a yogurt that you buy. A dairy one, we don't use them. But what I'm saying is they use a culture where it might have had 2 or 3 or 4 strains of bacteria. So it's not going to be that you're not going to get the diversity as if you made your own. So I think that's all that I needed to share. What I'm going to do is go to your questions right now and see if you guys have any questions. Let me know if you have tried a probiotic that's been really helpful for you. I'd be really interested. Sorry about the audio. I don't know why it didn't work. It said it was on and the volume was up and then all of a sudden it started working. So very strange. Hello, David. Hi, Maureen. Hi, Melissa. I know that was all the audio. Debbie. Hi, Marella. Philip. Yes, let's go on to your questions. Have you guys found any probiotics that really make a difference for you? Okay, here we go. There we go. So there should be some questions here. Lots of volume problems. So Judy from Utah. Okay, here we go. Is it true that brain rewiring can reverse chronic dizziness and tinnitus and migraines, MLK? So all of those symptoms, the dizziness, the chronic dizziness, and the tinnitus and migraines, those are all symptoms of inflammation, especially in the central nervous system. And that, we can never prove it's all going to be recovered when you treat the parasites, but what we find is that it definitely can, and it does. It's just, are we treating the parasites well enough? So what we do with the Live Disease-Free plan is that, sure, we want to reestablish those good health-promoting microbes, but think of it like your intestines are like a lawn, like your front yard, your lawn. And if your front lawn is full of dandelions and crabgrass, or we call it quackgrass, and this weedy front lawn, and then you just go around and you sprinkle some nice grass seed on it, are you going to have a really nice lawn? No, you're not, because those weeds are very well established. The weedy grasses are just going to choke out the good. So when we have chronic disease, we're in a state of dysbiosis. We have far too many disease-causing parasites and not enough health-promoting microbes. So it's so important we don't want to just manage symptoms with taking a probiotic and hopefully helping it to make us a little happier, a little less anxious, a little less fatigue. We want to feel well, right? And if you want to feel well, you have to treat those weeds. You have to treat the parasites. So as you are, number one, following our plan is to stop feeding them so much. They love processed carbs. So we decrease the carbs, we support the body. And through those 2 steps, that's a prep phase. And we're feeling a lot better already. Then we are ready to treat. And then we use a combination of parasite drugs, antimicrobial herbs, and oxidative therapies. And if you like ozone, you can use it, but there's one that is a lot more cost effective and it's more helpful, I believe. You can use both of them, and there's other oxidative therapies, but this one, it's just so good that you can't talk about it. And you'll find that again on Rumble, Live Disease-Free Rumble, and you look for oxygen therapies to treat parasites. So the parasites are causing the inflammation. The inflammation is your immune system fighting the parasites. The inflammation is the war. And what you feel is you feel tinnitus, and you feel migraines, and you feel dizziness. So as you treat the parasites, the inflammation goes away, your body just heals, and people have their balance back. The tinnitus is no longer an issue, and also the migraines too. And I've talked about migraines also, like our body will produce prostaglandins, which is the pain chemical, and our body is producing it in response to infection, but also the infections can produce prostaglandins themselves. So when there's no more infections, there's no more production of prostaglandins, and we have no more pain from the migraines. So and it's not rewiring your brain, your central nervous system is fine. It's just inflamed, and that's why you're having those symptoms. And then as we're treating the parasites, then yes, we definitely do replenish our good guys, but we really like the raw sauerkraut, especially when we can do the homemade. The homemade is so tasty. Like when I usually do it in quart jars, and you never tighten the lid because it bubbles out as it's fermenting. But when it's ready and you open the jar, it's like bubbly, and it has this wonderful taste. And again, if you're using organic vegetables, then you are getting diversity. And we do need diversity because there are many different types of health promoting microbes that will definitely keep the bad guys under control. Is there information on ROS in topic-specific resources? I don't think I've really done. ROS is really, it's a very technical, so like if you're a biology person and you want to really go into the biochemistry of it all, then you would be interested. But the ROS, that's more of how your body uses oxidative, like they're called species. Like there's different ways that your body uses oxygen. And so if that would be more like scientific, and the people that I work with they don't want that much science. They just want it simplified. They want to understand it. So they understand, how is this relevant to me and how is this going to help me? And so the ROS would not be things like ozone and other oxidative therapies that we use to treat parasites. That's just really understanding the biology of how, the physiology of how our body works, how our immune system fights infection. Hello, Facebook user. Is fermented sauerkraut better than taking the supplements? I personally think so. There's no harm in alternating things. So like another really great one that I found is called, it's from Custom Probiotics. And it is delactate free, custom probiotics. Oops, everything's backwards. Delactate free, so this one does not have prebiotics in it. But like I will take things periodically, but honestly, I haven't noticed really, and that Garden of Life, the soil microorganisms, a friend of mine had Crohn's disease and she said that really helped her. But I think there's a big difference between somebody who, let's say you're eating all the wrong foods and you are really, really sick with parasites and a lot of dysbiosis. And sure, when you add in the right probiotic without prebiotics, you might notice some symptom improvements. But honestly, the Live Disease-Free diet will give you 10x the benefits of taking a probiotic. Again, there's no harm in taking a probiotic. Make sure no prebiotics, make sure it doesn't contain yeast or sugar or any kind of dairy for sure. All right, and so Deborah, you make your own sauerkraut. That's awesome. It's actually really easy once you do it. I mean, I make quite a few jars at a time when I do it, like 6 or 8 quart jars. And so it's a little bit more, but then you use a food processor. It's not hard. You can just coarsely grate the cabbage pretty quickly. So Chris, you found that Dr. O'Hara, you've noticed symptom improvements with that. It's recommended as a good probiotic, but I took it, and a lot of times when the bottle would say take 1 capsule, I would take like 4 and see if I noticed any more difference. I personally didn't, but I'm really glad that it's been helpful for you. And also a different one there too, Pyxis. And then another person said, is the doctor looking in my eyes for parasites? No, the doctors don't believe that we have parasites. They're told that parasites are just a problem in underdeveloped countries, that we don't have parasites in developed countries. And so they're not looking for parasites anywhere. And if you suspect you have a parasite, they'll kind of roll their eyes and they'll say, well, if you want, we can do a stool test and it'll come back negative. And it's really frustrating. David, antibiotics in our meat is harming? Yes, absolutely. Antibiotics are used extensively all over. So what we do in the Live Disease-Free program is that, once we've restored enough balance that we can become completely symptom-free and whatever disease we had is in remission, it's really important to protect and guard our health. So I believe that, continually having the raw sauerkraut or using different types of probiotics. I wouldn't just only stick with one brand if you're going to. Let's say if you don't want to use, and if you're going to use raw sauerkraut and you're really sick, start slow, right? If you're really sick, start slow. Don't take a half a cup of raw sauerkraut. You might have a war going on. So just introduce it slowly and bring it in slowly. You're very welcome, David. Dr. O'Hara has pre, pro, and post probiotic capsules. So did it help you, Pam? I purchased them years ago, and I don't think they had a bunch of different types. I just think that there was green on the box. They might all be green. I think there was just one kind. A couple more questions here. Can the doctors, I got that one already. What is the best strategy? What is the best strategy probiotics, fasting or, and I'm not sure what you mean by that, is when to take them. I would follow the bottle. I think in the past, I don't take a lot of probiotics. I would usually take them like more on an empty stomach with a big glass of water because you want to dilute your stomach acid a bit. You don't want to have a lot of digestive juices going on with food if you are taking a probiotic, because those can definitely, interfere with the survival rate of them. But as far as taking probiotics, again, on an empty stomach is great. Switch it up so you're getting different types of species. Just pay attention to see if one helps. Make sure they don't have probiotics. If you're sick, if you have chronic disease, avoid the prebiotics. You'll find that that's really helpful for you. And the last question I'll answer here. So Everyday Essentials probiotics, it healed my ulcer, bloating, and GERD. That's amazing. That is really awesome. So there is benefit to it, but it's really what your goal is. Like if you're somebody who's healthy and you just want to take a probiotic to help replenish, and that's what we do in the Live Disease-Free plan is whether it's raw sauerkraut or taking different probiotics, there are lots of different chemicals and again, antibiotics and things in our environment. So we want to keep building up our natural defense. That's a really good health promoting thing to do. But if your goal is to recover, to go back to a time when you felt really well, when you felt like your old self, you have to treat the parasites. And what we do again is follow the diet, the Live Disease-Free diet. You can learn about it. I have everything online. On our website, there's the Live Disease-Free diet guidelines. On our Live Disease-Free website, you can find playlists on YouTube about the diet. You can start to implement it, and you will notice even bigger symptom improvements by going lower carb, by following the diet. Still take your probiotic. And then when you're at the point where you're like, okay, I get it. I've watched your videos on all the different parasites and I want to treat. If you need support, we have the Live Disease-Free plan. You can watch my masterclass training. And after you watch it, if you want support, if you want to find out more about the plan, then you can fill out the form and you can join, or you can talk to me and ask questions if you're ready. And we would love to support you. We've had a lot of students join in the past, I'd say about a week and a half. And so we're really excited to help them get going before the holidays. So they are going to hit the new year in an amazing place where they're going to have a lot of symptom improvement and get through the holidays without suffering, right? And that's the big thing, is we don't want a setback. If you have just watched this and you didn't watch last week, make sure to go and watch my video from last week. You can find it on our website, on our blog post. I gave tons of different ideas on what to eat over the holidays, really tasty ideas for drinks and for meals, meal side dishes, but also for appetizers. You can enjoy your food without compromising your health. And that's what I want for you. I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to feed those parasites, because they'll make you pay. They really will. All right. There's lots more questions here. Let's just see. I think I'm going to let you guys go because we could be here for a long time. So again, if you are looking for a plan, we have that. If you are just wanting to start with the diet, make sure to watch my training on that. Start to change your diet, start to feel better. And please like and share this video. Help us to get the word out. We need to start talking about all of the infections and the parasites and the probiotics. We need to share this with your neurologist, with your chiropractor. Let's get the practitioners, the different, especially integrated practitioners, really understanding that it's not just Lyme, it's not just fungus, it's dysbiosis, which includes protists and parasites like worms, etc. And when we treat them, we have recovery. And go ahead and watch some of the recoveries from our students, again, on YouTube, Live Disease Free, and on our website. Get some Kleenex because they'll make you cry because they're just so beautiful. With that, I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care and bye-bye for now.